And I think this is going to be very interesting, this workshop, Darren. So I see that you've prepared 60 minutes around the world with Google products.
Yeah.
So I think you're a big fan of Google products.
Well, the geo stuff, and there's some new things that we were kind of disappointed that expeditions went away. I don't know if you ever use those with your students where you have the goggles and you do the tours. So that's gone, but they have moved that stuff over to the Google Arts and Culture project, that app.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be in a school who had, and we had 35 VR headsets. So we could sit down with entire groups, entire classes, and just explore with VR headsets. This was awesome.
Hey, Jennifer. Yeah, so now instead of that, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but all those expeditions have moved to these online exhibits, they're called now. So they still exist. So if you're like, I used to do this awesome thing, yeah, it's still there, thankfully.
Yeah, it's a great way to travel without leaving your classroom or your living room. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. You ever go to Quebec City very often?
Yeah, fairly regularly, a couple of times a year.
Oh, yeah? I was doing that with my son. We were just checking out all this area here. And I feel like I was there. Even though I haven't been there, the Citadel and all that.
Oh, it's worth it. It's a nice piece of history.
Is it? Yeah.
Definitely worth it. All right, Darren, I think it's time to kick this off. We are live. We are recording. We have 34 people with us. So let's explore.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. Let us know. I love that Jennifer and Kristen and Tanya have told us where they're from, but please do so. Our only way to talk to you is in the chat. So, hey, Samantha, yes, let us know where you are, where you're from. I think, Guillaume, do you have the link? Can you drop that link in the chat, or I could?
Absolutely.
Mr. Sherbrooke. Airdrie. Stacy, I'm coming down your way next week. I'm hoping the smoke is pretty okay. Hey, Erica. Bonjour, Pierrette. Norquay. There you go. Cool. This is truly a cross-Canada session. That's so awesome. That's pretty great. From Nanaimo. I almost died in Nanaimo once, just on a kayak little trip. That's great. Great memories. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to be looking at just the Google tools we can use that are really simple, actually, to explore the world and then to actually create some projects. So there are some fantastic things. If you haven't done some Google Earth projects, there are some fantastic ones. Thompson, Manitoba. Nice work. Ah, yes. I was in a rock band touring in my 20s, and we played a week in Thompson. It was very exciting. So I'm Darren. I'm from Sherwood Park, Alberta, where I work with about 12,000 students and teachers just outside of Edmonton here, and we do all kinds of fun things when it's a non-COVID year. So all these projects are projects that I've done with students. I've done that for the last 8 years. And Guillaume has got his own little gig happening this year.
Yeah, exactly. I used to be an elementary school teacher, then a high school teacher. I teach robotics. I coordinate with maker spaces and repair cafes and all sorts of things. So community work, and also innovation consultant for various schools and trainer as well. So here we are. I'll be hanging out in the chat answering your questions. So there are 2 sections in the chat. One for general announcements, and then there's a Q&A section. So I'll be hanging out in the Q&A sections to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Guillaume. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm in Treaty 6 territory, land of the Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. And we acknowledge those traditional knowledge holders who've gone before us. And I'm particularly grateful to the people of Southern Alberta who are stewards of the land and water when we have a government who will not be stewards of the land and water. We have some people who have stepped up to prevent things like, strip mining mountaintops that are important waterways and things like that. So I'm really grateful for the people in the South who have protected those lands so that doesn't happen. Alliston, Ontario. Nice. Ajax. I always like the name Ajax. I don't know why. Cobblestone Collective is really a small group. 3 people own it, and it's just people like Guillaume and myself, teachers who work for them and just share our lessons and what we've done with our students and try to help teachers. We gave, Guillaume, I think it was 300 was it 300 events? No, 65,000 teachers attended our Cobblestone Collective events last year. Hey, Debbie. Hey, Cami. Nice to see you. So I really want to start with the most important tools. Google Maps. It's incredible what you can do with Google Maps. Ever since, I was in grade 5 and we're doing some map work, Guillaume, and I see this one student and he's colored the entire continent blue and the oceans brown. I'm like, oh man, we need to do some geographic thinking and knowledge, and we need to do some maps. And it's amazing what you can do, because we're like grade 5 in Alberta, we would do New France, and they didn't even know where Old France was. And so I think that exploration is huge. So I'm really hoping that you're willing to explore with maps with me today for a little bit, and then look at how we can, once you've explored, we can actually create projects in Google Earth. So I hope that sounds good to you. Yeah. The Google Earth projects are so cool. And then we'll look at Google Arts and Culture. Did they have that interactive Van Gogh exhibit at where you are? You have paintings, you walk through the Van Gogh?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Feel like, Emily, yes, I kind of feel like that's what, arts and culture kind of is, looking at paintings that are really close up and being able to zoom in on Van Goghs and things. Oh, it's in Calgary now. It's expensive, but I don't know. Nice, Shreya. So, Google Maps. I cannot believe what you can do with Google Maps now. And we'll look at some of the coolest things that you can do. So can you throw it in the chat? Have you used just Google Maps with Classroom in your classrooms in the past? Have you used them? Do you explore with them? Are you already a ninja and you give me some tips in the chat? Where are you with that? I wonder if we could put some emojis in here too. I'm not sure about this chat. I love putting. Oh yeah.
So let us know in the chat, just a quick sense of what you're doing with Google Maps. Maybe I can share one of my stories. In an ESL classroom a while back, we were reading this novel called Hatchet. It's an old, well, not that old, but 1986, I believe, or something like that, by Gary Paulson. So we were reading this novel, and it's the story of a young kid in a plane crash. And there's this vivid description of what the kid sees through the window and the various instruments and the readings and all that. And he crashes eventually next to a lake. And out of curiosity, for a while there, I asked my students, well, it would be nice if we could figure out where he crash landed, because it's in a lake somewhere in Ontario. We don't know exactly where. So let's try to figure this out. And I just asked. And then I said, well, if you figure it out, then you can skip the quiz. And so my students went back and read the entire chapters. They took notes. They called airports and aviation engineers to figure out what the different numbers meant in the text, and they came up with I think a valid perspective on where the plane crash landed. And there are so many lakes in Ontario, but then there's a description of the shape of the lake and all that. So this was really a neat little project, and we all collaborated, and it took a life of its own. I was really amazed at what my students came up with. So that was pretty neat. So sometimes you don't realize the power of Google Maps, but this is I think it helps.
I wish we'd had it when I was a kid. So we're going to look at just some of the powerful features, and I'm going to walk you through kind of my progression when we start with students, because we always think they know what they're doing, and just because they're digital natives, and that they really don't. I mean, I love walking through these perspectives and all the different little fun things. So here is your basic map, and if you ever zoom out and you get the flat Earth, where you have the Mercator projection and Greenland is the size of Africa. This you don't necessarily want. There used to be a button over here that was a little globe, but now that's kind of hidden under more. So if you ever see that you don't have the globe view, that's where you want to turn that globe view, Guillaume. So you get the round Earth, which you can rotate with your mouse there. Wow, that's really going. Stop. Let's refresh it. Refresh that Google Earth. My map once I pressed it, just kept going. All right. Now you can get the globe view where you're all the way out. And one of the first things that I show students is changing to satellite, which gives you this awesome view. And I'm going to challenge you to do this too. Go to Google Maps, go down to the bottom left, change it to satellite, and then zoom way, 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 way out. And you will get, maybe if it goes to space, other planets And I'd like you to try going to the International Space Station. This is actually the first place I take students to for Street View. And my first challenge for you is, can you get to the ISS? Can you find the bathroom? So again, you're going to go to Maps. Make sure you are, oh, that's so great, Joanna. I love that. Just make sure you're in the satellite view, not the Maps view. Grab that satellite layer, zoom way, 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 way out. And let's go to the ISS. Let me know if you found the washroom in the ISS. They don't call it that. There's no sign.
Wow, there's so much stuff in there.
Yeah, what's really neat too is the conversations you can have, like, hey, there's a computer there, there's a computer there. There really is no up and down, right? There's just stuff everywhere. And there's the attachments, so you can have, there's your, this would be down, I guess, depending on which way you're working. So let me know in the chat, did you get to Google Maps? Did you change satellite? Are you in the ISS? Are you participationing? Guillaume has a spandex outfit that he can wear for the participation.
No, I don't.
Oh,
it's
right.
on the drive.
Yeah, you get the goggles in here, and it really can be overwhelming.
Oh, I think we saw the bathroom.
Yeah. So I hope you're exploring with me, not just me by myself playing with maps. Although I wouldn't mind that too much. It's pretty awesome. Let me know in the chat.
Darren,
anyone find it?
I brought something. I just wanted to show you. So this is a globe. When I started teaching, this is the globe I had in my classroom, and that was what, 15 years ago. But this globe dates. It was made in the 70s. So when I started teaching, this is what I had, to show in my classroom to my kids. Yeah. And the countries were different. And there's no update on a globe like this one. Yeah. So at least with Google Maps or Google Earth, you do get your official update.
Okay, two things. If you have anything searched, if you search for anything in your map, like you started with a city, you have to X that out. Make sure, and that's I'm glad we're running into that problem, because that'll happen with students. Make sure you don't have anything searched, and then you can go all the way out. You should be able to, and you have to be in that satellite mode to get those other planets. Happens all the time. I used to start, search Edmonton or whatever, and then that just didn't work out so well, because that would always happen. There you go. There's the washroom on the ISS.
It could use a little home staging.
Yeah, you want it to be
fresh coat of paint, a few potted plants, something.
Awesome. So let's get back down to Earth. There we go. Nice, Emily. Love it. If you're ever wondering, every Google tool, if you need a shortcut, Control ? gives you every shortcut in that tool, whether that's Google Slides or Google Maps or anything. Control ? You're like, oh, that's every single shortcut. Just so you know. Yeah, Control ? That's really powerful, because if you're, here, and you're like, how do I? Control ? That'll give it to you. Yeah, I feel like I don't know much about the ISS. I should know more. All right. One thing we can use right away, of course, and some people mentioned it already in their projects, is this in the chat, that you can measure distance, right? If you're doing your Terry Fox run in September, you want to know your distance, that you can actually just right-click, measure distance, and boop. Find a single route. But I love this too. You can get the area. Your first lesson could be, okay, find satellite view of our school, find the area and perimeter of our school. One of our teachers has a kilometer club we were talking to, where they give a little certificate, and the students, it was 1 kilometer to run around their school, and they would give them the certificate. You can't zoom out. Samantha, do you have the Earth, the globe view selected? That's maybe what I wonder. You're not getting flat Earth, are you? Measurement. Now, one of the things too, Guillaume, I'm not sure if you've had lessons on like launch. Yes. So make sure you go into that flat earth and go more, select that globe view in there. If you don't see it over here, you might see it under the 3D. That's where it used to reside. This is great. I'm hoping we run into all these problems now with me so that when you go through students, you know what you're doing. Yeah, so just that measurement is just right clicking. You get that measurement data, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. And Guillaume, one of the things I did with longitude and latitude, because we really didn't understand it, was we started searching. You can search for actual coordinates like 0, 0. And this should be the ocean, right? So there's 0 and 0. And then I would challenge students. Yes, labeled International Space Station, Janet. I would challenge them like, Guillaume, how far north do you think I'd have to go in my search if I wanted to get them to get onto even, Mali? How many degrees and which number would I change? I searched for 0, 0. So which number would I change to get it to go north? I'm challenging you. Oh, microphone, mon homme.
I don't know. That's an excellent question. Let's try it. Maybe.
Which one do you want me to change first?
Well, I'll change the first number because it says north. So I don't know. Go 15.
Good guess. Let's see where you ended up.
Oh. Oh, not too bad.
Hey, you were. Oh, did you actually make it? I think you did.
Oh, so close.
That's
so
really
close.
So just actually doing that. And then after a while, they notice like, oh, everything's in the north. And then they finally realize you start talking about, the negative numbers in here. And this got the longitude and latitude and an actual understanding instead of in the past where, they really didn't quite get it. Like, okay, I understand these, you're saying these words, and I just don't really understand the actual concept. So a couple things with that, Rashida. Hopefully you have that globe view turned on. Hopefully you're in satellite mode, and hopefully we don't have any flat earthers in the crowd. At a canned geo session? I don't think so. Now, if you want to be a super ninja teacher where you're just impressing the kids, but this one's not that great educationally, but gosh, it's fun. So Guillaume, if you go to Loch Ness, this is how I introduce Pegman, because Pegman, when you grab Pegman, oh, I better hover a little bit farther. I got to go in a little bit more. When you're in Loch Ness, Pegman gets there. And Jeff, do you see globe view in your options, like when you go down to the bottom in satellite? That's what I'm wondering. Let's go to Buckingham Palace.
So Jeff, it might be, are you on a PC, a Chromebook, an iPad, on your phone? There might be, it's unclickable.
There's the queen.
Okay, well, okay, so maybe try it again after rebooting, or update your Chrome browser to make sure it's up to date. There might be something there that's not up to date, but you can still follow along for today. Darren has a bunch of other cool stuff to show us. So if the space station doesn't work, there's plenty more.
Nice. Okay. So the really cool thing about that's cool, Jeff. Yeah, I hope you worked that out, because it's a great thing to get. One thing that's awesome, Guillaume, is a lot of times we grab that peg person and drop Pegman down, and that's how we're doing it. But if you just click one time, it actually shows you all the street view in the entire world. And even this is a cool conversation. Like, look at the US. We go, hey guys, why do you think this area is not too street viewed? I mean, why is there no street view right in this area?
It's lagging. It's your computer.
No, that is not the answer. It's the Amazon rainforest, right? This is the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's not even, that it doesn't exist. It's like political. So if you look at, or it's economic, like look at Africa, the richest countries in Africa, tons and tons of street view. In other countries, not so much.
And how do you turn that on, Darren? It's by clicking the Pegman only once, you said.
Just once, yeah. So instead of, that drag thing, that little hang thing that we do normally, Instead, just click Pegman one time, boop, and then you can see all the Street View. This was neat too, Guillaume, because we were doing it, and there was zero Street View in Russia until like 2017. And I was in a session and like, yeah, Russia has zero Street View. And I looked, and all of a sudden they had it in Moscow. And then it slowly went out like a spider until now it's just stretching all the way across here. You can go like to Mongolia and all these awesome, cool places. It's really fascinating what you can see. Yeah, and that's a good conversation too, Jeff, when you're like, well, why, folks? Is there very little Street View up here? Then you can start talking about that geographic thinking. I mean, when I was doing this with students, the first time we're looking at this and like, well, what do you see there? And to me, and maybe to you, it's very obvious that that is mountains. But it wasn't obvious to students. They weren't quite clear what they were seeing until, I went into what I'm going to talk about in a sec is the 3D mode, right? Or even I think a lot of times you're coloring on maps like we do the Canadian Shield in geography. But if you look at the map of Canada, you can really, really see the Canadian Shield. The Canadian Shield is very, very obvious. That glacier that scraped the land clean and you have all this water. Like you can really see that from space. And that's what I really tried to get. Instead of, in the past coloring, let's color the boreal forest. Let's color the parkland. Let's color this is much more engaging. Look at that Canadian Shield. We only get a little bit of it in Alberta, just this top corner. Now, the cool thing about that Street View too, Guillaume, is mountain range. Oh, yeah. And you can see, like, right, Cammy, like where the people have settled near water and all those sort of things. Now, if you see the line, that Street View has been created by the Google car driving down a road. It's not going to be the most interesting. It's going to be, houses, and it's going to be highway and, the fences and the farms. But if you see a dot, that means a civilian like you and me has gone to that spot with some sort of camera or a phone. Everyone's phone does it. You can do it in the Street View app, or you can just stitch it together, or you can get this is an LG version of just a camera that will take an instant 360. So anyone can do this. We can all add Street View to the Street View app that you have on your phone. So here's an example. There's my house. Here I am. And there's one Street View, Guillaume. And this was, got a little Northern Lights.
Nice.
So everyone can add these. And some of these Street View that people have added, like Google has done every single national park in Canada. So you can go to Wood Buffalo and it's been done on a quad. You can go to Iqaluit. They've taken the Street View camera and they've got it on a dog sled and they're going across the country doing all the parks. It's so cool. What else do we have? Nick. Okay. There's some other really cool ones. If you go to the desert, there's one that's done on camel.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. What else? And sometimes you can go to Mount Everest. You can see that the Street View has been done just everywhere in some really unique ways.
Yeah, for Mount Everest, it was a huge backpack with an antenna in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how Iqaluit was done too, which is pretty great. Yeah, there's dog sled. There is horse. They've done it on camel. They've done it on just the regular car. Oh, Herculaneum. Is that in Greece? Naples. Ah, cool. Yeah, I love when people share where they've gone, what they've seen. That's super, super fantastic. One of the funnest, I like to go to the catacombs in Paris and walk through where they have all the skulls and the bones. That's a pretty great one for students, just to freak them out a little bit.
Just a little, yeah.
Now, of course, when you take your students and you're telling them, you can see the most amazing things. You can see the Colosseum of Rome. You can see the ruins of Mount Vesuvius. You can see and they're just going to open up that market. Hey, Amy, they're going to, that new one that they just uncovered. There's a little food market that a little restaurant that's going to be open pretty soon. So where do you think, throw it in the chat, where do you think students are going to want to go first? You're like, the whole world's at your fingertips. Where are they going to go? Yeah, Cammy, exactly. Yeah, they're home, of course.
Hey, Darren, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes we say that if you leave kids alone on the internet, they'll end up on YouTube watching all sorts of videos that some might not be appropriate for them. Do you think there's an issue with Google Maps? Do you think there are some places that are inappropriate for younger children?
Not really inappropriate. Most stuff's blurred out and stuff's pretty good. I think the thing is like here's an example. The first time I wanted to show my students, this is when the original Google Earth came out, and I wanted to we're gonna go to the Roman Colosseum, it's gonna be amazing. And I built it up so big because Google Earth was brand new. And I dropped Pegman down, and the first thing we saw was a guy urinating in the bushes. So that was my first experience with Google Earth. And he was not facing the camera. It was blurred, but still, it was quite disheartening. But no, I've never seen it. I mean, sometimes you see that on blogs and stuff that there are weird things. Okay, so they will want to go see their house. I often have them, find their home. That's one of the first things we do because they're going to do it anywhere. Oh, sure. That's really cool. Sure. I love that interactivity, the Zwifts and the things like that. So one of the first things we do, they find their home. And if they're in a place where the Street View car has gone more than once, this is one of the most incredible features. Like, I'm going to take you guys time traveling, because up in the top, if you see a clock up here, this means that there's been more than one Street View of that spot. So you can click on the clock, and I can go back all the way to 2009. And now I'm in 2009 world. Oh, is the TARDIS? Where was it, Amber? Somewhere in London. So here I'm time traveling. I'm in Street View. The first Street View was kind of around, not very good in 2007, but 2009, they really started doing the world. So you can find a lot of Street View from 2009. And for us, we're like, oh yeah, that's a little while ago. For students, 12 years ago, that means the entire world, is done. You can see the world the year of your birth. Imagine you can go back and see your house, your street, your town, the year you were born. That's something that's going to be a reality from students from born in 2009 on, which I think is just incredible. So here's just downtown Beaumont, where I grew up, and it's been done several times. And you can see construction projects. Oh, they're starting to build.
Huh.
Back to present.
So Darren, if we try to recap, in order to get your time machine, you have to be in Street View.
In Street View
somewhere, and it might not work everywhere because it needs to be scanned at multiple dates, like different years.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you go to a place like New York City, in front of the MoMA, like that's been done many times. And then some students, it's if their house is pretty new, their whole neighborhood won't even be on Google Earth. Or if you're in the country, there'll be zero Street View if you're somewhere very rural. So there's one time travel thing, which I think is amazing. There's another thing that's not necessarily like the Google Earth or Google Maps part, but this is pretty incredible. This is a Google time lapse. Google Earth Engine time lapse. If you've seen this, Guillaume, but this will show you satellite view all the way back to 1984. If you're doing anything with, glaciers that have changed or urbanization or deforestation, this is one of the most incredible things. So here's this Columbia Glacier. And you see on the bottom of my timeline, there it is in 1984. You press the play button, it shows you how it progresses every year. This is just satellite view. So you can't drop down into Street View, but when we get to Google Earth very quickly here, I'll show you that is actually available for some places. Oh, I want to go to Beaumont, Texas. This is, if you're looking at, there's some on there for like coal mining, where they're doing strip mining, and they have, how it's changed over time. Yeah, it's not, Joanna, because it is satellite from way back.
Yeah, deforestations, ice cap melting.
Yeah. There's my hometown, which you can see it just exponentially grew from, the 1,000 people when I was a kid to 20,000 now. Cami, did you find the deforestation one just on the side, or did you actually just see Haiti?
Oh, there's one there in Bolivia, deforestation. That looks good too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. Look at how we can track this stuff. Oh yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Right now we can zoom in so close. So neat.
Yeah, there's a huge difference in the quality of images from, oh yeah.
Absolutely. So 2 ways you can time travel. One is just that little Street View clock kind of button. And the other being, oh, nice. Amber, we're going to check it out.
I also you found the artist.
I want to see how many times it's been done there too. I really should make a doc. I have some of my awesome locations that I love. Oops. Apps can't find. Oh, wait. Artists. Did that take me there? Hope you're playing too. It's on the side. Ah. 2008. So they have it. Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's one of the 10. That's pretty incredible for how many times it's been done and how far back you can go. 2008. Time travelers. Now, Guillaume, one of my favorite things, and I can't believe how this has just improved. So we have, you can go to space. You can look at everywhere in the world with their Street View. You can see some different vehicles, transportation, the way they've done it, tops of mountains, all those crazy things. You can do all that stuff, but you can also, the 3D stuff is just incredible, how you can fly around. Oh, that's awesome, Erica. The ideas that you can, yeah, so great. So this is just the regular, GeoGuessr. Yeah, GeoGuessr was really good. And you can do it, if it's still available, I know GeoGuessr, I thought it might have changed, but you can change it for just Canada if you change the play at the end to a Canada link. So it's only Canadian locations. I think GeoGuessr made me realize, like, man, all these locations, like this looks like Northern Alberta, but it's actually Siberia. Or this looks like somewhere in Ontario, but it's, actually somewhere in Switzerland. And it looks very similar. Certain places look very similar. Okay, so here's my regular map. This is awesome, Guillaume. It's 3D, where you can actually see and fly. This is maybe the next step that I always, have students go through and fly these areas. Speaking of sharp imagery. So to get these images, Google took a plane and they have 6 cameras on it, and they actually flew over top of these locations. It took thousands and thousands of pictures that they amalgamated, and they got rid of all the clouds, all the dogs, all the people, all the smoke, everything and that interfered with it. And I just noticed that they've really been getting this much better, adding the shadows and making this just really, really, really sharp.
I remember in the first days of this 3D view, you had to draw your own buildings and then add them to Google Maps. So you had to draw your house or, draw over your school to reconstruct the structure so you could see it in 3D, and only certain buildings were in 3D and not the entire world. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're planning, like I was planning some hikes and a bike ride, and I actually planned this out by looking at this 3D view, because what you can do is you can look, if you look at your mouse, we'll do it in Google Earth. It'll give you the height of certain things in Google Earth. So I was going to do this little ride here. This is Banff over here, Guillaume. This is Canmore. And I planned out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to check this out. And you can just fly through these valleys, holding down the control key to rotate. Exactly what stuff looks like.
Well, don't go too fast there, Darren. Your screen is lagging a little bit, so we only get, I would say, 1 every 20 frames.
Yeah, on mine, I can see it. I can see it over there I'm watching my presenter screen. This is fantastic. Like when I was asking about Quebec City, we were, studying the Plains of Abraham. But I do the actual city. And being able to kind of bring this historical location to life. Here's the Citadel. If you're looking that direction, that's where the British ships would have been coming from, past Ile d'Orléans. And then over here, that's where the British ships docked and they climbed up and assembled at the Plains of Abraham, right? Making this come alive, grabbing street view. I just feel like sometimes our locations are just pretty static. We read them in a textbook and it doesn't really come alive, but I could do a little tour of this area. And truly, Guillaume, I've never been there. But
you should.
Well, I'm coming. So I hope you have that spare room ready by the time I'm getting there. So when you're looking at these historical locations, like, this is pretty awesome. Or in Alberta, we do sacred places, like we do Big Rock. We do. You lived a few blocks from there, Cami. That's pretty great. Right. Guillaume, I just want to show you one, because I do sacred places of Alberta, and there's some that have been street viewed. Oh, not Brooks. I want to do Bassano. Please throw any projects that you've done or any questions that you have in the chat. We'd love to hear from you as we are playing. So this is the Majorville Medicine Wheel in southern Alberta. This is, I think, 3,500 or 4,000 years old, a sacred place that's been in use for that long. And from this satellite view, you can see that it's this large structure. And this has a street view that when you drop down, you don't see that larger structure, but you can see just what's immediately around you. So we would read about these places and we just wouldn't explore them. I feel like that's the real power of using Google Maps in particular. Cami, this is, if you go to Alberta, I always search for Bassano, and then I just follow the Bow River. And I just click on the street view, and you can see these are good for the original grassland, and then this is the actual Majorville Medicine Wheel down here. And we'll look at the Big Rock in Okotoks. We'll look at Head Smashed In, Buffalo Jump. So these are Alberta locations, but it's similar to wherever you're from. You can find Gross Moor National Park has some awesome street view. Any place you are, you can see that. Yeah, Stonehenge. You could go to Stonehenge. You could do. I was surprised a lot of students hadn't even heard of Stonehenge. Like, when I was a kid, Stonehenge was huge. Stonehenge was huge. The Bermuda Triangle was huge. Quicksand was huge. I was like, I'm gonna have quicksand. That's how I'm gonna die. But it didn't happen. Okay, so we have explored. We have flown around. I hope you're playing. Give me a yeah in the chat if you're yes. I'm playing with maps. I'm looking at maps. Let me know that we're not talking into the void. All right, Tanya.
Yeah, you're good.
And let's stop coloring maps on paper. Let's take them here. Let's look at the Canadian Shield. Look how it's impacted the earth. Look at the mining. Bay of Fundy. Oh, Tanya, there's some amazing street view. Yeah, Michelle, I've really been thinking about that lately with my kids and the benefits of boredom, right? Once you get bored and you start like creating things and making things out of cardboard. But when I was a kid, let's be honest, I took the map from from The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings of Middle Earth, and I multiplied it out and I drew it on these giant pieces of paper. Oh, great wall. And China, interestingly, doesn't have street view with cars. They do have the individual thing. So that's one of those things where the government doesn't let Google do anything, but you can actually add, that street view. Okay, so we have played, and you're probably thinking, okay, that's fine, but what am I going to do with this? Well, students can learn about longitude and latitude. They can look at the physical geography. They can look at mountains. They can look at buildings. We did one, Guillaume, where they just did screenshots of like radius, and they had to find, circles around the globe. They had to find buildings that had triangles. They had to find all these different structures, which is really fun. And we also did one for bridges. That find a suspension bridge in the real world. Find these different types of bridges instead of going home and having dad build a bridge for you and bring it in. You're like, I don't know, my dad made these things. I literally saw a grade 3 class where a bridge was welded. I'm like, are you marking the dad's welding? Like, what's going on here? Okay, so now that you've explored, you probably think, okay, well, let's actually get these things into some sort of project that we can share, and I can make sure they're not just playing. And that's where Google Earth comes in. So Google Earth, as you probably know, it was only available for PCs until about 3 years ago, I want to say. And now it is just so powerful at the very least, I'll take students here, and we usually start with actually just the dice. I'm feeling lucky. So we get to Google Earth. If you go there yourself, things might start bogging down. I know, Guillaume, you're saying if the map was bogging down, Google Earth might really impact it. But the cool thing about Earth, I'm feeling lucky. You just click it, and it takes you to a cool location around the world. Kirka. Apparently, you don't need as many vowels as you think. So this is pretty fun. I love hearing students like, I'm in Italy, I'm in South America. Because just that play, I think, Guillaume, is so important. Just with maps, just playing and looking and just exploring, I think is just super important. Super important. You're studying Japan.
And finding,
what's that?
And finding your way. You know, if you're in Greece and then, oh no, let's go to France, and then just orienting yourself and flying in 3D and finding where you are. And this is, for me, for kids, this is priceless. You're moving the map, you're moving on the map. It's not just looking at an atlas in the library. You're actually moving and orienting yourself. I think this is powerful.
I mean, we study ancient Greece, so looking at the ruins that are here and where things were. Actually, I found, that's grade 6 for us, I found a painting in the textbook that had these areas. So there's the Bolletariat and all these places that were really important for democracy. These are the actual ruins, but I overlaid the paintings over top of the ruins in our Google Earth project. So we're actually exploring, we're looking at these real things. Yeah, notice something. What's different about the housing? What's different about the vehicles? What's different about all these different things? There's the Knicks, where they would go up and vote in the early democracy. There's the Parthenon. Oh, I could just explore this all day. Now, you don't have to know all these things about Google Earth yourself. The Voyager, you can actually search for Voyager tours. So Voyager tours are like pre-guided tours. There's some that, are nature. There's games. If you just want to start with Google Earth, one of my favorite ones, Guillaume, is there's Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. There's 3 versions of that in Google Earth where you can just explore and students can start getting used to answering questions. There's quizzes. There's overlays. I want to do the historical overlays. There's some really, really neat ones. The ones that are layers. So like this is a teacher's dream come true. You're studying, I don't know, any topic. You can throw in the chat, throw me a topic and let's see if there is one available. Like you're doing World War II. And these are all the guided tours for World War II. Or actually Canadian Geographic has done, I think, at least 4 or 5 projects where, if I just search for Canadian Geographic. Yeah, there we go. Oh.
Wonders of the World, yes. I did also strange places or unsolved mysteries like the Nazca Lines and Stonehenge and the pyramids and stuff like that. The kids really enjoyed that as well because you explore, you look at them, and then there's a little research project on the side, but you really get the feel of how big they actually are. This is very, it's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, Cami, here's that one right there. This is the residential schools ones. That's Canadian Geographic. So there's the locations. And these little tours, this is what you can actually create. So you can watch the ones that are there. You can kind of explore these. And you can just go through just step by step and go through these ones. But this you can also have students create, or you could create. So as you're in I'll show you how to do the projects. So these ones, Kristen, these are the Voyager tours. These are like the pre-made tours that you can look through. And a lot of them are just searchable. So I searched residential schools. You can do, I wonder if Wonders of the World would even come up. There's Natural Wonders, Discover Peru, Discover Thailand. Wow, there are a ton. Explorers, I'm sure, would have. So, Space Explorers, Early Connectors, Mont Blanc. You can search them, or you can just look for the ones that are here under Voyager. Culture, travel. We did one with homes in South America and how they were different from ours because we were studying Peru. You can go to Machu Picchu. So that's awesome. I love it. Oh, Guillaume, I wanted to show you one. If you're a history buff and you like maps, under the layers one of the tours, that's the little wheel of the ship. You can put layers like historical maps from around the world. Let's look at the world, and here's the map. So they've taken these old maps, Guillaume, from like 1587, and it's an actual overlay over top.
Huh.
And there's all kinds of maps in this one. This one has all these ones from the Rumsey collection. Like,
wow.
Unbelievable. La Florida. It's always fun to look at what they thought was up here at the time. Look at the table of contents. I want to see there's another one from Tokyo 1700. So these are all overlays where it just overlaid over top of the modern world. Ooh, a celestial globe. There's the world globe, 1790. Pretty good. Pretty accurate.
It looks like mine.
Yeah, it's the one I had. Yeah. And this still shows Russia on the top. I'm going to change the USSR. I remember that. So that's just another one of the Voyager tours. It looks like the Death Star. Yeah, there you go. That's no moon. That's a space station. Oh my gosh. That would be a pretty awesome overlay if someone created it. I mean, if you want to get really, really nerdy, you can talk to me. I have a whole folder full of these things. There's one like education in the world, the last earthquakes and volcanoes from the last 30 days. And it's pulled in right from the US Geological or whatever that service is. So it's like all the real new things that have happened. Oh, Canada's original place names. Yeah, look at that. So if you go to like Acadia, all the colonized names. Banco de Terra Nuova. So cool. Okay, so there are the ones that are pre-made, but you and your students can make them. So let's look at actually making these, eh, Guillaume?
Why not?
Null Schools Earth. I don't know that. So I'm going to make, just right over here, there's a project. I'm going to make a brand new project in Google Drive. Oh, weather, but yeah. This is going to be, I'm going to do features of Alberta. Go to a new feature. I'm going to search for a place. So when you search in Google Earth, you get these little knowledge cards. And the awesome thing is you can just add these right to your projects. So I'm just adding this.
Okay, Darren, just 2 seconds. I think you lost me. How did you get there to create this this project? It's on the fourth icon on the left. Is that it?
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. I'll slow down one more time. So there's your search. The little wheel is the Voyager tours. I'm Feeling Lucky takes you all around the world. There's settings and measurement below, but this is the project page right here, projects. And all your projects will be saved. They're saved in Google Drive. Yes.
Okay, so you're creating a new project. Okay.
I'm creating a brand new one. And like Janet's saying, there are some awesome, like Canadian Geographic has an amazing, I think 5 when I searched, 5 amazing tours. There are really, really good ones. But you might want to, as you're going through your curriculum, create a tour and just add a little place every day. And then as you're going through, you can actually share that project. Like, hey, remember we visited this place in our social studies or in our mapping, we visited this place, and just as the year progresses, build this amazing project. I've also had students do, geographic features of Alberta or sacred places of Alberta or things like that. It's pretty great. So I'm doing this natural features one. And to add features, you can just search for them, drop place marks in. You can even draw lines or shapes. If you've ever done a lot of stuff with Google My Maps in the past, they've kind of ported that over. So this has kind of been changed to like those old features that you had in the My Maps, right? Where you can add, this is Canadian Shield, or this is my school. You can add those locations and those other layers. So I've got Banff. Now, what I tend to do, Guillaume, and this is just me when I'm doing these projects, is I'll tend to have students drop in satellite view and then do a street view of that same place. So we've gone to Banff, but then I want to see, okay, I want to see what's at the top of Cascade Mountain. Awesome. So Kristen, there is, once you're done the project, there's this share project button. And what they'll do is they'll hit the share project. You can have it just saved. They can share it individually with you, but this is also going to be a copy link button. And then that they can just add as a link to your Google Classroom assignment, and then you can see all their tours. So I've done it that way. I've also done it where I as a teacher have created a project through time. But yeah, that little collaborate button right there, they can share it, put it right in Google Classroom. You can see their projects.
I've never tried it in Google Earth, but in my maps, I used it to plan a trip to New York with my secondary 5 students. And we put all the points of interest on the map, and then they had to see if they had enough time, during their free time to walk to one of these points of interest and come back, or if they had to take a cab or something like that. And it created something absolutely amazing because, one person wanted to see this particular cupcake vending machine, and then or something else, and I want to see that too. And it just created an absolutely amazing map of things that students loved, and we had all the distances and all that. So that was a neat project.
Yeah. So, and when you're searching these places, wouldn't that be a great project at the start of the year, Guillaume? Instead of like this summer, there won't be as much travel as in a normal year. Usually I'm pretty envious of the students. I went to New York City, and maybe we'll get more of that in the future again. But, where did you go this summer? What did you do? Like, instead of saying, yeah, we went canoeing somewhere and some vague, no, find me where you went. Find me that river. Find me some street view near there. What was your travel? One of my teacher friends they just drove 5,000 kilometers or something. Went all through northern Canada, up through the Yukon to the coast and all the way back with a tent on the top of the thing. Okay, so you can add those places that are already there. But what I love, Guillaume, is this: when you do Street View and you drop down and you find something that you like, that's funny you say that, Joanna, about Toronto. We had a student who somehow set the card in Google for one of our schools. And it wasn't totally appropriate. So we had to change that. So this is one you're probably going to miss. But right here, Guillaume, there's a capture this view. And that's really, so that's going to capture this. This is my awesome climb. Oh, look at that, green. Like you don't get any street view of, if you don't see it, that means you as you got to get a camera, you got to go there, or with your app, you got to add that street view.
Start contributing. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. The algae. Oh, yeah.
We get that. Every lake in Alberta is like only a few meters deep, so it's terrible here. We have bad lakes. There's a few good ones, but now the thing I like too, Guillaume, is like in my maps, used to have the ability to add, images and pins and all that sort of stuff. Well, this is that area here. So I'm going to get rid of my little place, delete that feature. You can also just move them around. But you can add pictures. So maybe I'm going to add animals. So I'm going to do a bear. And you could add more than one. So you could have a whole, not only can you have a tour, but you can have, let's add some other, let's do an elk. Add YouTube videos, and this is where you can summarize in the textbook. So if you're studying something, like you're going to the Plains of Abraham, you can actually have the students summarize chapter parts right in here. This is where you can put your summary. And let's preview my wonderful 2 places. Let's go. I'm in my second one. See, just like we had in those ones that were, professionally done, I've got my tour where I've got 1, 2. Yeah, it's super user-friendly. We used to use the 2D one. Was it Google Tour Builder? That's gone away. There's the picture. And you can see my knowledge. This is my little summary. That's going to be right there, which I can then share in Google Classroom.
And you could add hyperlinks in that document as well, so students might be able to click on a link to go to a different website or see something else.
Yes, absolutely. And these are things you can always return back to and just keep building. You have this, it's got 2 places. Okay, today, folks, we talked about Banff, we talked about the climb you can do there. Well, now we're going to talk about a new place. We're going to talk about another place in the mountains. Can you tell I'm fixated on the mountains lately, Guillaume? But I'm going to add Jasper.
It's good, man. I just went to Vancouver myself 3 weeks ago.
Fantastic.
For the first time, it was amazing to fly over the mountains like that. So this brings back good memories.
When I was a kid, we took the train for Expo 86.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's taking forever.
It was great. I met a Japanese family and we became pen pals. It was super awesome. And the one neat thing that's available here is, can you see on the bottom right, it's kind of small, but do you see the elevation? See where it says 2,000 meters and then down here, see how those numbers are changing? Not only does it give you longitude and latitude and the height of the camera, but it also tells you exactly how high this area is. So if you're doing buildings, you could go to the top of the Eiffel Tower and it'll show you the exact height of the CN Tower or any buildings. It'll show you that.
So that's the number at the bottom right of your screen.
Yeah, the meters. And I planned this trip. If you biked the one way, you would actually, this is 500 meters of elevation gain. And then you can go down. We took a taxi to the top here, and then we were basically going downhill all the way to the Fairmont Banff Springs. So if we had gone the other, we met some people coming the other way who didn't do their research on Google Maps like I did as a nerd, and they were not happy because they were going up 500 meters over this long incline that was bumpy and all that sort of stuff. So just exploring and finding places. I mean, I find my campsites like this. I find all kinds of cool stuff. So I know we're kind of zooming through, but just being where I explore a ton with the Google Maps. I show them space, show them how to fly. We explore. And I think it's so necessary. We find where these places are. We see a place in a textbook, we explore that in Google Maps. And then creating these projects over time, that's in the Google Earth. And the last thing we didn't want to leave is we're building. I've got instructions here on the slide, just how it is. There's awesome videos for how to create those. There's a little video I think I made on this slide that Guillaume has popped into the chat with how to make those projects and how to style them up, do all this sort of fun stuff. And the last thing I just want you to be aware, if you've heard of Expeditions, has anyone used Expeditions in the past with the VR goggles? I know Cami mentioned that she had been using that. If you in the past used VR and you had the old Expeditions, those Expeditions are now living in Google Arts and Culture. So don't be worried, they haven't gone away. So this one that says online exhibit, if you happen to have that old spreadsheet that has every single expedition that existed, they're still there. This is the online exhibit. On a computer like mine, doesn't have, So unfortunately, they're gone. That's the problem. But if you do have anything that has a little gyroscope in it, with the Google Arts and Culture Project app, you can still explore if you have it on, you can get it on a touchscreen Chromebook that has gyro on it. So these are those same tours. So they didn't entirely go away, Guillaume, but they're not as easy to access as they used to be.
Well, it's easier because you don't need the VR headset and all that. You can access it on any device.
And I think really that was the point, that we were spending a lot of money on. I know we spent, I think, $15,000 on a kit where we could do the expeditions. And now we have some Chromebooks that actually have, touchscreen, and they have a gyroscope in them. So we can actually use those tablets, any tablet, and you can explore these. And as a teacher, if you have one tablet, you can also cast this and have that go to your projector and just show yourself and guide those tours. So they didn't go away entirely. Google Arts and Culture is a really fun app. One thing you should try if you haven't yet is go to Google Arts and Culture. There's all kinds of things you can do with the camera. Like you can take a picture of yourself and it'll compare you to, like there's an art projector, art filter. It'll even take a picture and it'll say, these are our pictures. I'm gonna take a photo of myself. And it'll find paintings that it thinks look like you. These are not complimentary. These are, in fact, I shouldn't even show them, but I disagree. But it's found some, get out of here. I don't think so, Guillaume. But they're really cool pictures. You can take a picture of yourself and put a starry night, a Keanu Reeves through the years. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So don't worry if you think the exhibitions have gone away. They still exist. They're in the Google Arts and Culture. And Google Arts and Culture actually has some fantastic games. When you're talking about, students going online and just going on YouTube, Arts and Culture is a great one to explore because there's a whole thing with paintings, and you can go to any museums and find Street View. You can look at Starry Night in gigapixel. You can search by painting, explore nearby. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do. Yeah. It's gone away. So all these little tips and tricks is me and Trish Rofi from Edmonton Catholic, my super bestie. We've kind of put these together, just working with hundreds and hundreds of students over time and just seeing what the best tips and tricks are. So if you have any additional resources, we have My Engaging Student site, Trish's site with thousands of templates. We have all kinds of projects. So thanks for being here for our hour. We're just looking at playing with maps, Google Earth projects, and Google Arts and Culture. That was a quick hour, Guillaume.
It was, but it was really interesting. If you have any questions, we have a few minutes left.
Awesome. Oh, mixed up files. I used to do that. Used to the mixed up files of Basil. Yeah, that's super great. You can go to the museum. You can walk through it. You can pretend you're there. And Guillaume, I know you were a My Maps user. You can actually take any of your old My Maps and you can import those maps over top of Google Earth as layers too. That's the other thing you can do.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Neat.
Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for having us. Thanks to Canadian Geographic. Merci, Pierrette.
Bonne journée, Pierrette.
Thanks for popping in, Cami.
Well, Darren, thank you for this great session. If you have any questions, now's the time. Otherwise, you can drop us an email, and the link for the slide deck was in the chat. I can put it one last time if you want, just in case. So you can refer to that later and explore some more.
Yeah, Emily, awesome. Helps in September. I'm telling you, they're like, new France? Where's old France? I'm like, oh boy, okay. Let's explore on Earth. Find our houses. Oh, that's not the full link.
Wait.
That's only half like that's the Can Geo.
What happened here? Wait, I'll fix it.
Thanks, folks. I can't wait, Guillaume, to be in actual classes again doing this. I did a few virtual Google Earth, and that worked pretty well, but I like being in the actual classes doing it. I think
it's not the same. I like to be with the kids, yeah. See the little twinkle, that little spark that shows up. Yeah, it's hard to see.
Another thing that was cool, too, when we did the projects, like, is this a good view of the Rocky Mountains? I'm like, well, you tell me. What does it show? It shows mountains and a lake, and then it's rocky, and it's got the coniferous trees. I'm like, yeah, so is it a good picture? Like, yeah, it's a great street view. I'm like, yes, it is. Then the tough one was the Canadian Shield, because there wasn't a lot, like someone mentioned, there wasn't a lot of street view way up there, but they found some where it's showing the rocks and showing the smooth, rocks that have been wrecked by glaciers.
And then when you work on that project, you have to play the arrogant worms. We've got rocks and trees and trees and water. Yeah.
I was at the sun is a mass. The sun is a mass of incandescent gas. Okay.
All good. All right.
Guillaume, thanks for hanging out with me.
So thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Enjoy your sessions.